Where are you going in life? What do you want from your life? Are you pursuing happiness? Are you happy? Maybe we've got happiness wrong. Maybe instead of trying to be happy so our lives are better, we could try and live a better life that would make us happy. Ancient civilisations like Greece and Rome had just that idea, an idea that all their greatest minds would try and achieve instead of happiness. The idea, that state of being, is eudaimonia. What is eudaimonia? The word literally breaks down to the prefix eu.
Me?
No, you.
Them?
Meaning well or good. Think euphoria or eulogy. And daimon, meaning spirit. And the suffix ia being a condition. Think malaria or anemia. So, eudaimonia, the condition of having a good spirit, a good life. The closest accurate modern translation could be fulfillment. But I think that using the word eudaimonia rather than trying to translate it is important, because it's a thing in itself and might get confused or diluted by breaking it down into modern language and modern concepts. And that's kind of the point with eudaimonia. Ancient happiness is different to modern happiness. As people, we don't actually know ourselves quite as well as we think we do.
I know you, pal. Every little thing.
If we think about being happy or unhappy, it seems an easy and obvious thing to think about and distinguish between the two. But what if things aren't that easy? What if we're wrong about happiness? We consider happiness as a state or an emotion, something we should feel. The definition of happy is feeling or showing pleasure. In fact, the history of the word happy has a lot to do with a state of luck in many languages.
H-A-P-P-Y, I am H-A-P-I-Y, I have a P-P-Y.
The things that we think make us happy, money, knowledge, love, power, food or drink,
Watching people fall over.
amongst other things, do not actually predict a person's happiness. People with or without these things can be both happy or unhappy. Not to mention the pursuit of these things, these metrics of happiness, can themselves lead to unhappiness or fear of missing out,
FOMO.
or a feeling of failing at life,
Profile.
that kind of thing. There is a paradox in pursuing happiness. Viktor E. Frankl wrote in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, it is the very pursuit of happiness that thwarts happiness. We are, of course, all different, but just as some things make us all sick, some things make us all unhappy. And we can be wrong about those things. So if the pursuit of happiness shouldn't be the meaning of life, what should? Ladies and gentlemen, I give you eudaimonia. The ancient concept of eudaimonia is more of a goal for life, or something that you strive to be at any given time. It is flourishing as a human.
Or whatever species you are, I imagine.
It is living well and being fulfilled. And happiness comes from that. Happiness excludes pain or painful things like struggle. Eudaimonia can include it.
What, like stubbing your toe?
Do you even have toes?
You can suffer or be in pain and still achieve eudaimonia. Because achieving some things that cause fulfillment may take struggle or pain to achieve. In fact, many of the things in life that do lead to fulfillment, to eudaimonia, are often hard. They will involve pressure, pain, discomfort, challenges and sadness.
Now that sounds like a hot date.
And they will include those things and often exclude cheerfulness and contentment.
The amazing weather.
Multiple ancient Greek philosophers agreed on the concept of eudaimonia and it being the purpose of life, that it is doing well and living well. But there were differences on the hard part. What kind of life is a life well lived that leads to eudaimonia? Are there a set of rules or guidelines that we can follow? Well, as I'm sure you suspect, it's not going to be quite that easy.
Be amazing whatever.
One of the systems of philosophy that recognise eudaimonia as the goal to life is Stoicism. The Stoic triangle of happiness. I always thought being stoic was being emotionless or certainly in control of your emotions. It's a lot more than that. It is a school of philosophy created in ancient Greece in around 300 BC and practised by many of history's great minds to try and understand themselves and better themselves, to pursue eudaimonia. To the Stoics, eudaimonia is at the centre of their triangle of happiness. At one corner of the triangle is the dichotomy of control.
Ah, yes. Like when you have the remote control, but then you lose the remote control? You have no real control, and who controls the controller?
No, the dichotomy of control, a term coined by the Greek Stoic philosopher Epictetus.
Epic what?
Titus.
Titus. Epictetus. You know what you're saying.
The dichotomy of control is essentially the idea of focusing on what you can control and accepting the things that you can't control. Everything, every event in our life can be separated into those two things. The external things we don't have control over, the weather, the economy, politics, getting old, other people's opinions, that kind of thing. And the internal things that we do have control over, our judgments, our desires, and our actions. Sorting life's events and decisions into these two categories takes wisdom and practice, and some events are a complex mixture of the two. A popular example is that of an archer.
Nice modern example.
An archer about to shoot something annoying that keeps butting in. He can control how he is practiced, how hard he pulls back, and when he lets go. He can't control the gust of wind or the movement of that annoying thing.
You can't control your love life, but you can get sexy AF.
Yeah, I was thinking more that you can't fully control your health if you get illness or disease or certain genes, but you can eat well and exercise. The dichotomy of control. Accept and move on from things you can't control and focus on the things that you can. But it's not quite as simple as being happy by simply thinking everything is out of your control. You need to take responsibility for your life. At another corner of the triangle is take responsibility. This follows closely to the dichotomy of control in that, yeah, there are things that are out of our control, but ultimately how we react or have reacted is down to us. Our lives are our responsibility. Who we are is down to us, and who we will be is down to us.
How did I end up on YouTube videos? I could have, I don't know, sold breakfast cereal. Been on the box saying, buy this cereal. Eat your cereal up, you stupid.
Oh yes, we could have done that together, sir. Taken on the industry. Real food ingredients. Be real. Be so real. Be cereal. Cereal.
Sugar and milk, pal. Eat your sugar and milk.
And also, yes, through the dichotomy of control, we can sort life into the two things of internal things we can control and external things we cannot. But taking responsibility is often knowing that often the things that happen to us that are out of our control aren't the thing that make us unhappy. It is how we react to that situation that does. I love the story of the Buddhist second arrow of suffering.
What's with all the arrows in your analogies?
In arrow warfare, in the ancient wars, when you were under attack from arrows, most deaths didn't occur from a single arrow hit. The first would injure and incapacitate. As a result, it would be the second arrow that did the damage. Similarly, the first arrow of suffering hits you when something bad happens. It hurts and it's crap. But there's a second arrow coming that we can avoid, and that is the suffering that occurs with how we react to the first arrow. And as with arrow warfare, it's often the second arrow that's the most lethal. If this all sounds a bit like taking blame or that you are at fault for bad things in your life, think of it like this instead. Think of the power it gives you to feel like you are in control of your life. Outside events don't have power over you, and you are the captain of your ship. Focus on what you can control and live well. Live with arete.
Live with arete? Who's that? I don't want another roommate, thank you. I've got quite enough with him and all those other characters you keep coming up with.
At another corner of the triangle is arete.
Arete? That says arete. Arete what? Arete load of rubbish, mate.
Living with arete. The translation of arete is virtue or excellence. But what is living with excellence? That sounds a bit to me. Like, yeah, just be excellent and you'll be alright. Easy, nice one. The best way I have seen arete explained is by Brian Johnson.
Link downstairs.
He explains it a bit like this. At any given moment or any given task, there are two yous. There is what you are capable of doing. If you call on all your knowledge or skill or motivation or enthusiasm, what are you capable of? How are you capable of performing this task? Behind that, there is the actual you. How are you actually performing this task? Between these two versions of you, there is a gap. Living with arete is trying to close that gap. Make the gap between the actual you and the you are capable of being as small as possible. Because if you let that gap get too big, that's where regret, disillusionment, shame, anger, and lots of other unhappinesses live.
I hate those guys.
Don't give those guys a place to live. Live with arete. Close the gap between the actual you and the you could be. An important point to remember with this example is we're not looking at the big picture of who you are capable of being, like, oh, I could have been someone, I could have been something else. Comparing yourself with what you could or should have been at 30 or 40 or whatever. This is thinking in any given moment, am I being who I am capable of being? In whatever you're doing, if you're cleaning up, if you're writing an essay, if you're doing press-ups.
If you're loving, being sexy, making the love.
How well are you doing these things compared to how you really can do these things? Do these things with all the faculties available to you. Be effective. Do it with excellence. Do it with virtue. But what are virtues? Plato was one of the philosophers who believed that the way to achieve eudaimonia was to live with arete, to live a virtuous life. I think that with modern concepts like virtue signalling, the word virtue has changed in perception a bit. Think of them more as traits or skills, and to live a virtuous life is utilising these traits or skills, these virtues. Plato suggested there are 4 main virtues, and they were the skills to achieve eudaimonia. They are moderation. This is self-discipline, knowing what to do and in what quantities. The domestication of your emotions and desires. Courage. This is the opposite of cowardice. And of course it means to be brave, but not necessarily in the sense of standing up to or doing scary things. It can be having the courage to view the world how it really is, not coloured by your subjective view, but to strive for objectivity. Courage is also the endurance of pain and discomfort. It is knowing that doing the right thing or doing something right could potentially be uncomfortable, but you do it anyway. Justice. This isn't really what we consider modern justice. This is more treating others fairly, doing the right thing or showing goodwill. Being kind, you could say. Wisdom. This feels like a big one. I mean, philosophy means the love of wisdom. Wisdom is the knowledge we learn from living life. It's the ability to give yourself good counsel. It's knowing how to act in certain circumstances. But how do we know that? How do we know how to act? Well, Aristotle was a student of Plato and built on this and expanded Plato's 4 virtues into his own 11. Courage, temperance, liberality, magnificence, magnanimity, proper ambition, truthfulness, wittiness, friendliness, modesty, and righteous indignation. And with this, Aristotle developed his own virtue ethics, an explanation of how we should live. As with Plato before him, Aristotle believed the goal of a person should be to try and achieve eudaimonia. To achieve this, he says we must be fulfilled and meet our purpose. Not a specific individual purpose, but that all humanity have the same purpose. In the same way that if a bucket doesn't hold water, it isn't a good bucket, or a knife doesn't cut, it isn't a good knife. If a human doesn't human, it isn't a good human. Everything has a purpose, and he called this its telos. The telos of a knife is to cut. The telos of a human? That is simply to live a virtuous life. Live by those 11 virtues, those 11 traits. Do the right thing, at the right time, in the right amount. If we don't, we cannot achieve eudaimonia, and we just won't be happy. But how do we know what the right thing to do is? Well, Aristotle proposed that we should have practical wisdom. It's not just a matter of knowing the importance of the 11 character traits or virtues, but knowing how to implement them in your life. You can do this by observing other virtuous people, people you look up to, and learning how they act and react. Or you could also look at something that Aristotle came up with, his little virtue guidebook, if you like, something he called the golden mean.
The amazing whatever.
Aristotle said that those virtues we listed lie between 2 vices, the extremes of that virtue. Take courage, for example. At one extreme end of courage, you have cowardice, the deficiency of courage, not enough courage. At the other end is recklessness, an excess of courage, too much courage. Lying in the middle of those extremes, those vices, is courage.
Like Goldilocks courage.
Aristotle said this is how we find the right amount of that virtue. Take this as a real-world example, using the golden mean for some practical wisdom. You're walking down the street and you come across a robbery. Someone being attacked by some baddies.
Hey, give us your super soaker or we'll get you, alright?
What do you do?
I shall be over there in a flash, sir, and give them a bit of the old courage, stick it right in their faces. Probably, I don't know, wrap these eyes around them somehow. Give them what for, should we say?
And you?
Nada. Niente. Not my problem, mate. And guess what? I'll be whistling too as I walk past.
And those are the two vices. Going over there to fight when you know you're going to get hurt yourself or get somebody else hurt is reckless. But ignoring it and walking away and whistling is cowardly. The right amount of courage is to go and get the help you need to address the situation.
Everyone always does courage. Do another one.
Okay, that's fair. So, the person that was being attacked, the baddies have gone, being dealt with by the relevant authorities and being taken away to baddies jail. She comes up to you to thank you, but also explains how, I don't know, she doesn't have any food or money. What do you do?
Well, I have quite the stash of euros. She can have those. In fact, I can cash in my snooples. In fact, poor thing, with what she's been through, she can have it all. Everything.
And you?
She can have a knuckle sandwich is what she can have.
The right amount of charity or liberality lies between miserliness, being a right tightwad, and giving away more than you can afford to, being foolish.
Glad I'm allowed to nick just the right amount of stuff using this golden mean. Don't want to nick too much stuff. Don't want to nick not enough.
Well, yeah, Aristotle agrees that there are certain vices that any amount of is bad, like stealing or killing. But remember, we're not trying to find loopholes to life here. We're not trying to cheat the system. We're trying to better ourselves. There are definitely flaws and grey areas. I've spent a lot of my adult life trying to find happiness, trying to be happy. I'm not ashamed to say that I've suffered from depression. And I feel that it's something that even on my happiest days is there in the background, that if I don't follow certain rules for myself, I leave the door open and it can creep back into me. Or something that is always sat on my shoulder, but the way that I live on any given day determines how big or strong it is. I think I've been scared of pain or hurt because I know it hurts, and so I've looked for happiness as a shield or a force field, rather than a place I want to get to or a rule by which I want to live my life. Since my wife and I lost our daughter Jessie, we've felt ever more the importance to actively avoid sadness and chase happiness. And that we also deserve, guilt-free, with the lack of parental responsibility, to pursue happiness as our life goal. Obviously, this is an extreme example, and we all thankfully don't need tragedy to feel entitled to pursue happiness. In fact, most people, that is the goal of life, to be happy. Break down whatever you do in life and follow that TV down the chain, down the line, and the purpose is to be happy. Like, you work in your job. Why? To have money. Why? To buy things. Why? Because they make me happy. Etc, etc. But we can be wrong about happiness. I think we do get it confused with pleasure. I don't think that's necessarily our fault. We're a slave to the chemicals released in our brain, and the world around us manipulating us either by design or accidentally. You know, if I get a big bag of pick and mix and a nice glass of rum, I do feel happy. But the next morning I don't feel as happy. And if I do that every night, I definitely don't feel happy. I know that when I do hard things like working out or a task I've been putting off, I feel discomfort or pain while doing it, to a point where I don't want to do it beforehand sometimes. But I generally feel good after it. Despite the discomfort, I feel happier. I keep coming back in my mind to the definition of philosophy being the love of wisdom, and I know that both Plato and Aristotle listed wisdom as one of their virtues, but I can't help feel like wisdom is the one that guides the other ones. With the Stoic triangle of happiness, it is wisdom that allows us to know what is in and out of our control. It is wisdom that allows us to see the benefit of taking responsibility for our lives and actions. Wisdom is using the skill set, bettering that skill set, that allows us to live with arete and close the gap between what we are and what we are capable of being. Not by holding back who we are capable of being, but by pushing that person ever further forward and then trying to keep up. So we must try and be as wise as possible. Wisdom is knowing that there actually isn't a guidebook or a set of rules. that every situation or task is a complicated mix of loads of virtues, and that it is up to us to decide the right amount of each virtue to employ. How do we adjust the various settings to what our priority goal is at any given time? The situation might change what the right thing to do is. I think Aristotle is right when he says one of the ways we gain this practical wisdom is by observing and following wise people. The people that are in my life, the ones I admire most, are the wise ones. They are the ones that make hard decisions because it's the right thing to do. They are the ones that evaluate themselves, that better themselves because it is the right thing to do. They are the ones that are humaning well and are good humans because of it. I wonder how close they are to Eudaimonia. I admire their wisdom, but I don't know how together they are. And frankly, I don't care. Because this is another slight flaw with Aristotle's golden mean. When I consider many of my heroes, they are not a combination of virtues between two vices. The great people I admire, artists, writers, musicians, scientists, engineers, inventors, entrepreneurs, to name just a few, are often either horrible people or obsessed or deeply sad or hurting or all of those things. They excel in one area and leave their mark on humanity, but by no means well-rounded and wise. They are great either despite this or because of this, and I don't know which. So would I prefer to be great or happy? That's a tough question. What about you? If it was either or, let me know in the comments. Would you rather achieve greatness in your field if it meant unhappiness? I think I don't have greatness in me, so the only thing that I can control is my happiness, or rather try and achieve Eudaimonia. Is Eudaimonia amazing? I've seen it written that it's selfish to try and achieve Eudaimonia. But if pursuing Eudaimonia makes us a better human, a more virtuous person, then whether we like it or not, whether we want to accept it or not, we have an obligation, a responsibility to be the best version of ourselves. Because whether you're religious or not, life is precious and shouldn't be wasted. Time cannot be brought back. Don't waste it. Plato and Aristotle mention looking to other people we look up to for an example on what the right or best thing to do is in any given circumstance. Well, who is looking up to you? Whether you like it or not, you are influencing other people. If you care about those people, think hard about the example you're setting them. Life is hard. God, being happy is hard. But there are things out there like the Stoic triangle of happiness, Plato's virtues, and Aristotle's golden mean that can help us be wiser, help us be happier. But guess what? I've got some good news for you. You're already amazing. Go achieve Eudaimonia. Because of Eudaimonia, because of everything, despite everything, be amazing, whatever. If you like this video, please do watch this other one, or subscribe to see more. Remember, we don't just do philosophy, we look at art and science and other amazing things. There's amazing in the world, and in you.